Turned it off. The mission of the Freehold Township School District is to honor and support every learner every day on the journey to become curious and engaged members of a diverse global community. A notice listing the time, date, and place of this meeting was placed on the public bulletin board of all Freehold Township schools on the entrance door to the administrative offices of the Board of Education, on the district website, and at the office of the Freehold Township Clerk, published in the Asbury Park Press on January 8th, 2021, and sent to the news transcript on January 6th, 2021. I'd like to invite anyone who would like to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to read the results of the annual school district election held on Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021, as certified by the Monmouth County Clerk. These members, this was for a 3-year term. Mary Cozzolino, 5,920 votes. Carrie Vendatoli, 3,570 votes. Neil Gargiulo, 3,553 votes. Jennifer Rule, 3,361 votes. Frank Brooks, 3,222 votes. Renata Brand, 3,006 votes. Renee Pepia, 2,248 votes. James Grasavage, 1,944 votes. And there were 81 write-in votes.
Read all the people that were written. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
I would, but I don't have them. So I'd now like to administer the oath to our new board members. We'll start with Mary.
Yeah, right. We got the brain back on. Either way. I, Mary Cozzolino, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance and to the governments established in the United States and this state, under the authority of the people, so help me God. I, Mary Cozzolino, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of a Board of Education, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Furthermore, I affirm and declare that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1. RS 19-4-1. Nor am I disqualified due to a conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJSA 18A 12-1. Okay.
Neil Gardullo,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and this state
and this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I, Neil Gardullo,
I, Neil Gardullo,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
for the office of member of a Board of Education,
for the office of member of the Board of Education,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly
impartially, and justly
perform all the duties of that office
perform all the duties of that office
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Furthermore,
Furthermore,
I affirm and declare that I am not disqualified
I affirm and declare that I am not disqualified
as a voter
as a voter
pursuant to RS
pursuant to RS
19-4-1,
19-4-1,
nor am I disqualified
nor am I disqualified
due to a conviction of a crime or offense
due to conviction of a crime or offense
listed in NJSA
listed in NJSA
18A
18A
12-1.
12-1.
Bringing my paper. I don't trust myself.
I, Carrie Mendatoli,
I, Carrie Mendatoli,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the government established
in the United States
in the United States
and this state
and the state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people.
so help me God.
So help me God. I, Carrie Mendatoli,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
for the office of member of a Board of Education,
for the office of member of Board of Education,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly
impartially, and justly
perform all the duties of that office
perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Furthermore,
Furthermore,
I affirm and declare
I affirm and declare
that I am not disqualified as a voter
that I am not disqualified as a voter
pursuant to
pursuant to RS
19-4-1,
19-4-1,
nor am I disqualified
nor am I disqualified
due to a conviction of a crime
due to a conviction of a crime
or offense
or offense
listed in NJSA
listed in NJSA
18A
18A
12-2.
12-2. Oh, sorry.
We will now take a roll call. Michael Amoroso, Deborah Costanza,
Here.
Mary Cozzolino, Neil Gargiulo,
Here.
Michelle Lambert, Elena O'Sullivan,
Here.
Jennifer Patton,
Present.
Meg Thoman,
Here.
Carrie Vendatoli.
Here.
We have a quorum. As pop. I'm going to open the floor for nominations for president. Anyone can nominate anyone, and anyone can also nominate themselves.
I nominate Michelle Lambert.
Are there any other nominations? Take a roll call to nominate Michelle Lambert as president. Michael Amoroso,
Yes.
Deborah Costanza,
Yes.
Mary Cossolino,
Yeah.
Neil Gargiulo,
Yes.
Michelle Lambert,
Yes.
Elena O'Sullivan,
Yes.
Jennifer Patton,
Yes.
Meg Thoman,
Yes.
Carrie Vendatoli.
Yes.
All right. Now I turn the meeting over to Michelle.
You want to switch back? Is-
The passing of the gavel.
Yeah. Passing of the gavel. It was nice being up here. Quick change.
Oh, yeah. You want your coat here?
Aw, poor Bob. All right. Okay. Great. So now I'd like to open the floor for nomination for vice president. I nominate Mike Amoroso. Second. Oh. Okay, roll call, well, no, we have to roll call in order, right?
Take a roll call, sure.
Yep.
Michael Amoroso,
Yes.
Deborah Costanza,
Yes.
Mary Cossolino,
Yeah.
Neil Gargiulo,
Yes.
Michelle Lambert,
Yes.
Elena O'Sullivan,
Yes.
Jennifer Patton,
Yes.
Meg Thoman,
Yes.
Carrie Vendatoli.
Yes. Okay. Board of Education Code of Ethics. The superintendent recommends that all board members possess the qualifications required by law and shall be bound by the provisions of the School Ethics Act. We don't need to say these all, right? We just certify them on paper. Okay. So you all have read the Code of Ethics, and in your packet is acknowledgement of receipt of the Code of Ethics for school board members, and you certify that you possess the qualifications and will be bound by the provisions of the Code of Ethics. So I guess when you're done signing, you can send them over to Ally. Next on the agenda is the meeting schedule for the rest of 2022, including the rework meeting next year for 2023. So I'd like to recommend approval of the Board of Education meetings as listed. Does anybody have any questions regarding any of these? Bob sent them out, so I think if there were any, we're all good with this. Okay. So I'd like to recommend approval for this. Do we have to say all in favor, say aye, each
All in
one?
favor?
I think so. So all in favor, say aye with regard to the meeting schedule?
Aye.
Okay. H, board reports and actions. So this is where we appoint, and before we all agree to, the signatures and the chair people for the various committee meetings. Superintendent recommends all board members possess the qualifications, which we already did. The superintendent recommends approval of the name stamps for the Board of Education president and superintendent on all checks for vendors, all payroll checks, and all agency accounts for 2022. The superintendent recommends approval of checks generated by the custodial system with pre-signed signatures for the board president, superintendent, and business administrator board secretary for 2022. Here is where we appoint board members for the various
representatives. So we need a representative for the Monmouth Ocean Educational Services Commission for 2022. Anybody interested in that? Otherwise, what?
Who did it this year? I think it was me.
So before we move on to 4, 5, 6, and 7, let me say we need a representative for MOESC Commission, the Monmouth County School Board Association Legislative Committee, the New Jersey School Board Delegate Assembly, as well as the liaison for the Freehold Municipal Alliance to Prevent Substance Abuse. So, right, you've been working well with the alliance. So we need school board delegate, legislative committee for the School Board Association and the MOESC. Anybody? Any takers? What would you like?
The legislative committee.
Sure. Okay. So we'll put Neil in for that. You have him in for that. Meg?
I said I'd be happy to stay on the legislative committee, but wherever else you can.
Do you want a delegate to the New Jersey School Board Delegate Assembly or the MOESC? Delegate Assembly? And anybody? Carrie will do MOESC. So we have that. The superintendent recommends the appointment of Diane Breathauer, Assistant Superintendent, as the district's school safety specialist. And the superintendent recommends approval of the appointment of Robert DeVita, Business Administrator, as Board Secretary, as Safety and Health Designee, as the Custodian of Records, and as the Public Agency Compliance Officer for 2022. The superintendent recommends approval of the appointment of Robert M. DeVita, Business Administrator, as Board Secretary for the year 2022. The superintendent recommends approval of the appointment of Allison Williams as Assistant Board Secretary for the year 2022. And further, it is recommended that Robert DeVita, Business Administrator, be authorized to award contracts on behalf of the Freehold Township Board of Education that are in the aggregate less than 15% of the bid threshold. Currently, that amount is $6,600. Without soliciting competitive quotations, and to seek competitive quotations when applicable and practicable, and award contracts on behalf of the Freehold Township Board of Education when contracts in the aggregate exceed 15% of the bid threshold, but are less than the bid threshold of $44,000. So, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 2, public notice. Superintendent recommends the approval of the Asbury Park Press as the official newspaper for legal notices, and designate the news transcript as the secondary newspaper for legal advertisements for the Board of Education for 2022. In addition, notices of the meetings will be posted at the administrative office in each of the school buildings, on the district website, and at the office of the Freehold Township Clerk. 3, bylaws, policies, and regulations. The superintendent recommends the approval of all the bylaws, policies, and regulations previously in effect to continue for the year 2022. All in favor say aye for
Aye.
1, 2, and 3.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I'd like to move approval for the year 2022 for the business administrator to be designated as the Board of Education's claims auditor with all the authority prescribed by statute. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
A move to recommend that the photocopy fee of 5 cents per page for letter size and smaller, and 7 for printed matter of legal size or larger. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The continued use of Robert's Rules of Order, 11th edition, as the official parliamentary procedure to be used to conduct all our meetings in 2022. Aye. Oh, and we're done. Whew. Okay. President's remarks. Welcome, Neil. Welcome back, Mary and Carrie. I'm looking forward to 2022, hopefully to a smoother year, although we have gotten off to what I would consider a very rocky start. We welcomed back most of our students and a lot of our staff, but unfortunately a lot of students and staff are absent
due to COVID. So we wish them our best, and we are doing our best. I'm sure that Mr. Dickstein will give an update on the state of schools to keep our students in school, and we will do so as long as it remains safe and practicable to do so. I guess Neil will take this over at this point. But before I do that, I want to, on a happier note, prior to the break, we, and I thank Mary, Mike, Kerry, Meg for being nice little board elves, for delivering donuts to all our buildings, reminding our administrators and our staff that we truly appreciate the work that they're doing each and every day to keep our students in school. And we did receive some correspondence that I wanted to read to the rest of the board. To the Freehold Township Board of Education, thank you for thinking of the Katina staff during the holiday season with delicious donuts and afternoon coffee. Much needed on a holiday party day from Broad Street Dough. We appreciate all you do for the staff and students all year long. Wishing you and all your families a wonderful holiday season and a happy, healthy, and calmer 2022. Sincerely, Kimberly McPartland, teacher, Cantina. Very nice. To the Board of Ed, thank you so much for the office coffee and donuts. It was so sweet of all of you to think of us. Thank you for all you do. Happy holidays. The MWES first grade team, Amanda Trinian, Jamie Kimball, Katie Jehoda, Chrissy Dack, and Therese Gardula. Thank you. And this has a bunch of signatures on it, so I'll pass these around. Dear members of the Board of Ed, thank you. Your delicious and heartfelt gesture made our day, the staff at DDE. So I just want to share that with everybody, and I'll pass them along. And now I'll move on to Neil for his administrative report to give a much needed update on the state of our schools.
Thank you. I also would like to echo welcoming Neil Gargiulo to the board and welcoming back Mary and Kerry. Excited to work with everybody again as we fulfill our goal of high levels of student achievement and developing our students into, I'll say the old one, responsible citizens and lifelong learners.
Yes, I like that one.
It's so many years, it just rolls off the tongue. I want to give an update on the schools. As I sent yesterday, and I apologize, we were doing several things very late at night, and I did not forward it to the board, but I will. For those of you who aren't parents, you don't have the letter, and I will forward that along. But I did send an update yesterday to our community, our parents, January 3rd update, separate from the letter I sent as we approached returning from winter break. We do remain as an administrative team and as a board to keep our schools open. At this moment, when we talk about safety, it's not only relative to COVID. We're talking about safety relative to staff's supervision of students as well. And I just want to make that clear. Safety is more than just at this time. I know you are, but I just want to make sure everybody understands when we talk about safety, we're talking about supervision of students. To give you an example of what I pulled today, and I did not go through and determine how many of these absences are connected to COVID, they're simply absences. Our student absent rate today was 18.8% of our students weren't physically present in school. Out of that, 510 or 14.5% were absent, and 149 or 4.3% were virtual. As of yesterday evening, or this morning, when we closed the spreadsheet, we're returning the collection of positivity reports directly to our nurses. When we closed the sheet yesterday, it opened when winter break had begun, and it closed this morning. We were up to approximately 260 reported cases of COVID in about a week and a half that was open. Out of that, approximately, and it's higher because it was yesterday, approximately 60 were staff. And how do we connect all of that? At this point today, we were 66 substitutes short in our schools, and tomorrow, at this moment, we're projected to be 59. And the issue is, as a staff member is clear to return because they've reached their 10-day after positivity, they return. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more go out. So that's our issue right now. It is not close contacts. Our issue right now is positivity. So our administrators are doing an amazing job of getting coverage. It is definitely creative coverage. All of our buildings at this moment, if safety would become an issue, we would not open. At this moment, our administrators besides some covering classes, are doing an amazing job very at night and early in the morning putting the schedule of coverage together. Once they do that, our staff members, from teacher assistants to our teachers, are flexible with being pulled to go into different environments to cover for the day. Sometimes we're canceling some teachers' classes in order to provide coverage to a different class, and we rotate through who we pull when we have to cancel those classes. Our teachers have also, and our teacher assistants have been wonderful in agreeing to cover classes at the rate of pay and giving up their planning periods and/or lunch periods when they can. There's been a great deal of flexibility, and as I said in the letter that I sent home, and I reiterated it in the second letter, it takes every stakeholder group to keep these schools open at this point. Our staff, our administrators are working extremely hard to keep the schools open and to maintain safe environments and continuity of learning. Our and our parents, for the most part, are sticking by really keeping students home when they have symptoms. We're not perfect there, and I just need to reiterate, we are asking for everybody's, our staff and our parents' support in keeping our schools open, and that means that if a child has symptoms or there's positivity in the household, we need honest reporting. And it's happening for the most part, but we've had several cases just today where, um, you know, they the kids talk. They tell us what's happening, and you can't put medicine and then send them to school. They will tell us eventually that they don't feel well, and that mommy gave them medicine. We just want our schools open. That's really what we want. It's what's best for everybody. We know that. We're committed to doing it. Everybody's working very hard, and we just need everybody's cooperation there. As we go through this period of time, we are looking still at some other creative solutions to be able to keep our students in school. I did share yesterday there could be times where students are in a large group area, socially distanced, and receiving instruction virtually from their teachers. We're looking into the ability to temporarily reinstitute the ability for teachers, if they're quarantined from school, to be able to teach virtually if they're well enough and choose to do so, temporarily through the end of January, because of the spike in cases. And if teachers are going to be out and they are well enough to do that, to teach, and they prefer to, we want to give them that opportunity. It helps them with their good instruction with their class, and it also helps us with coverage. There could be times where, and I tried to, it's hard to be clear in the letter, when we talk about closures, exclusions happen at all different levels. So there are students who can be quarantined and excluded in collaboration with the Department of Health in certain scenarios. They quarantine groups of students, they quarantine classes, they can quarantine a grade, they can quarantine a school. And also when we look at the issues relative to staffing, we may have to explore, if it becomes that unmanageable, that we may have to close a school for staffing, and if it's not safe. And we would do our best to rotate. If it was a specific school, we would do our best not to continue to close that same school. It is not our goal to do any of it. I'll tell you, we almost had to do it the other day, and the administrator I spoke with is like, I don't want to do this, and figured it all out. So we want our kids in school, and we do believe that. So I just ask, if it does come to a school closing, we will give you the reason why. We will give it as much advance notice as we can, but understand it is extremely difficult to, it will continue to be extremely difficult to staff the schools until this spike in cases comes down. But we've been successful so far, and we anticipate the ability to do it.
Understand.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's predictable, and that you guys are getting like a constant flowing of new positives coming in, right?
Correct.
So it's not like you have the same positives every day. There's like always like kind of at this point.
So just to give one example, the day I sent the letter, right, the winter break update, we were at I think I said 125, and the next day, so 24 hours later, we were at 250.
And part of it's multiply layered, as Neil said, when you're talking about specific tasks like driving a bus.
we can't jump on the bus and drive the bus. We don't have CDLs, right? So it may get to the point where we don't have enough, staff in that department to get kids to school safely, right? At the same time, the nurses, while I asked them not to work over winter break, they have been contact tracing and quarantining and for those 260 folks on the list. So we're really trying to get all hands on deck. We're trying to think of better ways to streamline it, but you know, nurses are not immune to this as well, right? So we've had, there and regular absences are also occurring. So I think we just want everybody to
There is the
understand.
flu.
Flu,
There's still other illnesses.
right, other illnesses that are happening, right?
Yeah.
Just I think an understanding. I know some parents had asked about the Chromebooks, and we truly, that was just it was a tremendous effort on the part of the technology department. They spent all day dismantling all of the carts in K1 and 2, which we spent all summer putting them together. And we got every kid, every one of our kiddos has a device, because if we should have to make that decision, our children all have a device in their hands, right, and a charger. And we're very lucky, and from our littlest littles that are 3 through our 8th graders, we have the ability, if we have to pivot, to keep everyone safe. So we're very fortunate, and again, the tech team dropped everything else, and that's all they did today was. So we just want to parents understand. Our goal is we'd like to get those Chromebooks back, and we're hoping by February the kids are not schlepping the Chromebooks back and forth for the littles, right? We want them back on the carts, and we want things to resume some normalcy. But right now, it's just a touch and go. We'll go to bed, and there'll be 60. We'll wake up, and there's 70 uncovered. Like it's almost like what are the things that they get wet and they multiply?
Gremlins.
Oh,
Gremlins.
Yeah.
It's like gremlins.
Don't feed
They're
them every day.
multiplying at a rate that we, and it's unpredictable.
And,
as
and,
Mary said.
and it's a little unbalanced sometimes between the schools,
Schools.
which is causing a challenge as well.
Correct.
Yeah, how's transportation then? Has that been a threat or has it happened?
Transportation's been a threat. So tomorrow will be so far the most significant impact. And what we do here is almost every day, Angie and Maria, the director of transportation and transportation secretary, we require those positions to have CDLs. They're driving every day, and Pat is an aide every day. In fact, Allie spends most mornings on vans as well as an aide to cover. So transportation tomorrow is, I know it doesn't sound impactful, but it's 6 absences. And what we do here is we double run. So when the message comes in, so Angie tries to get all the administrators the information for the next day, and then the secretaries in the schools send out a messenger to inform those parents that the bus will be, when we double, it's approximately 20 minutes late. Angie tries to be really specific with the amount of time the bus will run late. So there's a lot of combining sometimes if it's a smaller bus, meaning capacity wise. Like there's 5 kids on the bus, 10 kids on the bus, pretty much every day routinely. They'll double the run and pick up both runs along the way. Otherwise, it's a double run. Either way, it's about a 20-minute delay so far. So several runs will be 20 minutes. But this morning at 7, she had to make some more changes. So we tell everybody at this point, be out on time, but we could have delays up to 15 minutes for any bus any day.
How high does that 6 have to go before it can't?
It's 7,
Go ahead, Alex.
7 or 8, like 1 or more.
Yeah.
One or 2 more, and
Oh, really?
the call would go to
Mhm.
a bus, a bus of students, families saying, "We don't have a bus today for you."
Which is
They're
happening in other
all- almost
places.
all already doubled in a bunch of.
Yeah, I've heard
Routes.
private contractors are doing that too. They're calling districts and saying, we just can't do it.
Correct. Correct. They don't have their same thing. They're impacted by absences, and we know prior to COVID there was a bus driver shortage.
So if we have that situation where we have a bus that's unable to pick up children and they have parents that are unable to drive them to school, how are we gonna deal with the children for that? We're not gonna count the absence against them,
Well,
right,
No.
are we?
That's tricky.
our goal would not be to say that we can't provide a bus, but we could say the bus could be an hour late.
Okay.
So we can get,
Well,
and
eventually-
Allie, you can jump in if I am wrong, but our goal is not to say we can't provide a bus.
Okay.
Our goal, but it would not be the 20 or 30 minutes late anymore. It would be the bus driver's going to finish and we'll go back out.
Okay. But we'll get them there eventually if there was no other option. If
For
there's
the
no parent to
Correct.
drive or-
You know, for the most part, when buses run late,
Mhm.
parents jump in the car and
Yeah.
bring their kids to school. But we do have some that are at work already and can't. Absolutely.
Okay.
So we would make it our goal, but it would be with a significant delay, not the typical 20 minutes. And we would do our best to notify those. I mean, we're notifying when we know. So the night before, the day before Angie updates, we send that messenger. And if it's after hours, I'm sending the messenger. Like, we're getting it out there the best we can.
Because that's a smaller population, you would think theoretically after enough people have COVID, that they won't have it hopefully that much, that you get that low of an absence rate. Like you would think you would get, with a big group of teachers, you would get these big spikes. Have we passed that, do you think? Like if we're at 6, do you anticipate that going down?
No, it's
No,
going, at
it's
this point,
going
it's going up.
Yeah, there are more symptomatic people today, yeah.
That's what I understand. Then it's supposed to drop again. So everything that we've said as far as reevaluating things, our goal is to reevaluate at the end of January anything that we've changed, because they said the peak, which I've heard as well, is supposed to be around January 18th. Then we need a period of time to see that it's come down, and then we can look at making some changes.
Are districts talking to each other in terms of loading extra drivers? If there's a few that, like if somebody has a tolerance of 8, and let's say they only have 4 absences, maybe
Everybody's in the same place.
nobody's willing to give up.
Yeah, in the high
Okay.
school district, you have to go on the website and see the impact. Of course, because they're larger, they can't do like we do with the personalized calls. But you have to go on and see, find and see what's going on with your child's transportation. Yeah, so it's everywhere, and it's most impactful too with the private companies. We don't contract out, but districts that contract out are getting significantly impacted because the drivers are ill and can't be at work.
I missed it in your communication to the parents the other day, but are parents aware that that is a possibility? Like it might behoove them to figure out a plan now?
The only thing I did put in there is 15 minutes.
Okay.
So no, I wasn't as specific as we might go up to an hour. It's not our hope, but I can, at some point put that out there. Yeah, I didn't, not in that letter.
A lot of parents are also, just to chime in,
Yeah.
because I'm on the bus, are calling the transportation department ahead of time if they know their student is
Mhm.
home, because a lot of the drivers and aides don't know. And some of the smaller routes are all over the place. So one student, if the driver knows that student doesn't need a ride, if they call transportation and let the driver know, it actually speeds things up because they don't
Yeah.
go all the way out of their way to come back. So that's been very helpful.
Did we
when-
ask them to do that, or are they just doing that on their own?
Most children that ride vans, the parents do it as a routinely.
Routine.
Yeah.
Because they come specifically to our house.
Mhm.
So I know every time he's not going, I call because
Yeah.
it's just easier.
Can we
Yeah.
turn
You don't
that
see, I
into
always
like a
call.
policy?
That's what I'm thinking, like,
Like turn
know,
that into
or
an
at least a
official
request.
policy. This way, we're not wasting time.
We can put it out there. They do it for the most part. I mean,
Bus that I've been on,
yeah.
they have a very good, it's
Yeah.
in my, observation, it seems like the parents have a very good relationship with the aides and the drivers on those vans. So they seem to know.
Yeah.
We
So
haven't,
they call the transportation office
Yep.
and they email,
Call
they call
usually.
the office.
and that would be the preferred method of communication? Okay.
I always call and say, hey, Pat, it's Carrie. Anthony's not coming to school today. Let them
Yep.
know.
Yeah.
And then they get on the radio and tell them.
Okay.
And then I see
Can
them
I
go
say
down my
something
street
because
and
it
they don't
cuts
stop.
up a lot. I'm having difficulty hearing some things, but parents are aware that their child may be out there that long, so that we're not having any child left out alone if the parent has to leave for whatever reason. Correct?
Everybody, yes, the
Yes.
generic letter says at this point, expect delays up to 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
And then when we know it's more specific and we know specific routes, we inform them through messenger directly.
Okay.
So that's transportation. Test to stay. The State Department of Ed just released, or State Department of Health just released test to stay guidelines. We do have to review them. Some of them are a little more than what we intended in our initial conversations. This week we have a call with our Freehold Health Department to discuss the availability of the rapid tests. Remember, before, when we started to talk about this, they were not in high demand as they are now. So I don't know the availability at this point, but we are looking at having that meeting, And then subsequently, after that meeting, there'll be a meeting with the regional superintendents to discuss, to follow up. And then at the meeting on the 18th, I will share an update from there. I will say openly that remember everything that we're provided are guidelines and recommendations. And from what we've read so far, the guidelines from the New Jersey Department of Health don't seem manageable to leave that exact format. So we would be looking and recommending probably modifications to that. But still, the philosophy of test to stay. And I do want to clarify, I got a parent email today. I just want to clarify, test to stay has nothing to do with mandatory testing of students. Test to stay is when a unvaccinated staff member or student is a close contact, they have the option, it's an option, to either quarantine or to engage in test to stay, which means that every other day or 2 times in a 7-day period, whatever we decide when we put the guidelines into place, that if as long as they test negative, they remain in school and are never quarantined. It is not a mandatory, you can choose not to participate in it, and it is not mandatory pool testing, mandatory random testing. It is specific to close contacts, and it's optional. But again, on the 18th, I don't know if I'll have every detail worked out, but I will give an update on the 18th of test to stay. And I think that is it.
Any questions for Neil? No? Okay. This is the first, well, the only opportunity for public participation. If anyone wishes to address the board, please write your name and address on the sign-in sheet and state your name for the record. Statements are limited to 3 minutes and should not be abusive, obscene, or defamatory in nature. Would anyone like to address the board? Nope. Okay. Seeing none at this point, this board will enter executive session. So for those of you that came out tonight, thank you for coming out in the cold and joining us. And again, welcome to our board members, new and incumbent. At this point, whereas pursuant to NJSA 10.4.12b, the Board of Education may exclude the public from that portion of a public meeting at which the board discusses any of the matters described at NJSA 10.4.12b 1 through 9. Now therefore be it resolved that in accordance with the provision of the Open Public Meeting Act, the Board of Education shall conduct a closed session pursuant to the personnel and legal exceptions prescribed by NJSA 10.4.12 for the purposes of discussing personnel, the superintendent's contract, and pending or anticipated contract negotiations with the FTEA. It is anticipated that the length of time of this executive session will be approximately 60 minutes and that action will not be taken in public after the executive session. So be it further resolved that said discussion may be disclosed to the public when the reasons for discussing and acting upon it in closed session no longer exist. So at this point, we will go into executive session. I want to thank everybody for coming this evening. You are welcome to wait until executive session is over, but all we're going to do at that point is come back into public and adjourn the meeting because there's no board action being taken. Okay, so to be clear. So we'll take a 5-minute break.